Hi, Fiona.
Hello, how are you?
Very well. Yeah.
We've
Warming
swapped
up?
colours. Yeah, we've swapped our colours around. Yeah.
Yes. Um, yeah. And I'm also not on tea, I'm on water because it's too hot for tea. Too hot for tea in more than one sense.
Yeah, I've got water as well today. I'm probably not drinking enough. I'm coughing slightly. Yeah.
So today we're
Right.
gonna
I was
chat
going to say this week, what are we talking about? We're talking about
drawing grammar.
yes.
So I went to the Innovate conference about a month ago. It was the end of May. Um, and one of the sessions that I attended, it was actually given in Spanish. Um, and it was this idea of how useful it can be to draw grammar to support your students
Mhm.
beyond just kind of simple timelines.
I was going to say it's timelines and beyond, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we
Timelines are
kick off
useful.
with start timelines?
Yeah, as I say, they can be useful. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I think that's it. I think well, back when I was doing the teacher training on the Cert TESOL, we actually
Mm.
did a session on how to draw timelines and, because you say, oh yeah, you just draw a line and then show what the events are happening. Um, but they take practice to do them
Mm.
clearly so that the learners can understand it, I think sometimes.
Yeah, and English tenses are not necessarily chronological or clearly related to time,
Hmm.
um, which is problematic when you say sometimes it's this, but actually other times
Yeah. I have
it's this or it's yeah.
a B2 student. She's amazing. She's one of those people that you'll give her a text and she'll kind of do the activities and then she'll go, okay, I've got some questions like why is this like this and why is this like this and why is this like this? And we had a text the other day and I can't remember what the content was, but there was a use of the present perfect for the future. And so it was like, when we have
I've
finished
done
this,
yeah,
we
exactly. Yeah.
will do this. And she was just like, why? We use this to talk about things in the past. And that was when timelines really helped to kind of go, it's talking about this point in the future when this is finished.
Yeah.
So even
The
in the online
bridging.
environment, using
Yeah, I
timelines.
use I do draw a little bit when well, present perfect tenses, for example, but I draw bridges for them. They always get drawn as a little bridge because the perfect tenses are bridges between, that future point and something that happened before,
Mhm.
the connector idea. Yeah, I draw a kind of an apple, or we build an apple for tenses.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that shows the connection between, well, the bridges and then reality and unreality or
Mhm.
non-reality. So I happen to have a notebook here with no lines. I can show you. Let's see if I've got a pencil. Um, so we start off by saying, okay, what is the most real? What is reality? What is the most real thing in time? Tell me.
Oh God, pressure. What is the most now?
Now, right now. So I'm going to draw a little cross. So this is now. All
Okay.
right. And what is the most basic verb?
B.
Be. All right. And the most basic form of be, or the most essential form?
I am.
Exactly. So we go, I am. Then so the now is with I am. So it's I am sitting in my chair. I am working with you. I am talking to T. And it's like a descriptive. And so we've got the most essential is the now. So we start with that. And then we then kind of go, oh yeah, okay, I am, and then just ing, and that's the easy one. And then, okay, so that's reality is now. What other reality have you got? What other things can you talk about that are your reality?
Past. The things I did yesterday.
but that's in your memory. It's not real.
But it happened.
It happened, but your memory of it could. So
Ah,
other reality is things like I teach, I live in Oxford,
okay, so
etc.
present
Yeah,
simple
exactly.
routine sort of thing.
Yeah, so that's your reality. I live in Oxford. I teach at the university. I record weekly things with tea, etc. And then we say, so we go, okay, that's reality is the sort of the states or the unchanging things in my life. And they'll say, okay, so what's the most basic form of the verb? Infinitive. So it's I teach, I. Da-da. So we go and draw a circle around that little cross, and it looks like an apple core. So we've got, the basic form of the verb. So I'm just going to write teach in there, or live. I teach. I live. I like. Uh, what do I like? We talked about music last week. I like Soundgarden, like all these things. So that's the basic form of the verb. And then we say, right, and anything else is unreal. It's either not happened yet or it's in your memory. And if you bang your head and lose your memory, it's sort of essentially the past is gone and it happened. Why did it happen? Because every event you'll see differently from me, all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
we move into the realms of real and unreal. So you've got the real, the now, the tangible, the things that I can see and hear and smell and touch and whatever, and then memory, and then not happened yet. So everything outside the circle is in this,
Oh.
the in your head space. And then once you've done that, it's much easier to when you start talking about the simple past for conditionals and all that, the unreal. I mean, I draw more. I'm not going to do it now because I'm using pencil and the camera's not completely picking it up. But and then you can have simple past is outside the circle, over here. So
Hmm.
you've got your events. We were talking about Princess Diana with somebody yesterday. So she died in 1997. There's no connection. There's no
Hmm.
I lived or I used to live or whatever in Catalonia. There's no connection. Um, oops.
Yeah.
But my ex is from that time, and so I have known him since then. So then there's a connection, and
Then you
that's the
do
bridges, and
bridges.
that's why
Yeah.
you have your bridges between the outside and the inside. And then there's bridges this way as well when you've got the I'm going to, and then the difference with will, and so you end up drawing. But um, instead of me just standing drawing, I'll say to the students, so if it's prediction about the future, is it going to be a bridge? Is it going to be in this circle or in that? And then they tell me where to put it. And then so they're sort of helping me build this picture and it stays on the board for about a week.
Hmm. Hmm.
I just leave it there or in a big bit of paper or whatever, just leave it. So they've got it doesn't have the tenses labeled, it just has the picture and they can
And just
and
that
then
visualization
hmm.
would really help
Yeah,
as
and
well,
they'll
because
come
that's more
back
memorable.
and they'll come back to me a couple of days later and go, what was that? Because they can remember most of it, but there's always a bit they've forgotten. What was that? Oh yeah, that was the, I don't know, past perfect or whatever. Or that was, yeah, Will's over here. Should we
Hmm.
write Will on it? Yeah, let's put Will on it. Okay, you write it. Yeah, right. Um, so it's visual, but they help me build it so that it's not just how I
Hmm.
see it. Another thing I do, I've done this particularly with CLIL groups when training teachers. Um, for example, I used to train teachers of technology. Well, technology, they taught things like building, construction, tourism, sort of, should we say, non-academic subjects. And I would explain a concept to them and they would draw it. And it could be anything. It could be the definition of CLIL. It could be the difference between present perfect and present simple. But they had to listen and just draw something to represent the concept. And then they took, so, say it's this, then I'd give them each a board pen and they'd go to the board and they'd all draw whatever it was that they had visualized or however their brain conceptualized this thing. And then we would just stand and look and compare and see how differently they saw things. And they would discuss, say, oh, God, I don't quite understand how you see that. Explain it to me. And
Hmm.
explaining the drawings to each other actually really helped them remember the concept of whatever
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
And also just see how differently people's minds work. And so they then understood that when they were explaining things in class, that their students were probably seeing.
Hmm.
It'd be maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. I can picture the maybe it was explaining present perfect. I forget, but I just remember in one class there was one student who was the teacher of construction. So he was basically training builders. And his picture was quite different from the others. But the
Hmm.
others had things in common, but his was radically different. That was really interesting.
With you saying there about this comparing their pictures. So in this session at Innovate, we were looking at uh, like pairs of sentences. So the one of the main ones that we looked at was the which we don't have in English so much, but like the reflexive se me han
Yeah,
roto las gafas. So
yeah, yeah.
like the difference between my glasses broke, I broke my glasses, and so that as well. And then she gave us some other pairs of sentences, and we had to kind of draw it how we would explain it and then compare it to other people. And it's like you say, it helps you to then explain your understanding of the concept and how you turned that into a picture.
Yeah, and also there may be a slight gap as a student, there may be a minor gap in your understanding of something. And
Hmm.
so looking
Hmm.
at somebody else's picture is another way of
Yep.
filling the gaps, of getting a more complete,
Yep.
like Ortega y Gasset, Spanish philosopher. Um, Reality is the sum of all possible perspectives.
Ooh, nice.
So there you go, get them all drawing their pictures, and then
Hmm. Hmm.
potentially you'll get closer to the truth. Um, what else? What how? I mean, I don't know why Cuisinaire rods just came into my head. That's not drawing, but what other drawing activities do you do for?
Um, One activity that I used to do years ago, again, being back in the in-person classroom, was drawing dictations.
Hmm.
Um, so, and this, it was partly because a problem that we used to have with running dictations with Spanish learners. So in the typical running dictation where there's a text or a sentence and then they have to come back and dictate it to their partner who writes it down, they would dictate it in a very Spanish way to
Yeah,
help
I
their
did say I
learner,
knew what you were going to
their partner
say.
to write it down. So
Exactly. So
that's
the
why,
spelling comes out correctly. They're
yeah.
going.
So that's why drawing dictations. So the sentence is on the board. They go, they read the sentence, they come back, they dictate it, and then their partner draws a picture
Right.
of
Yeah.
it.
Oh, that's
I
lovely.
mean, so with like young learners, this is things like I'm sitting, or the mouse is sitting on the piano, or the
Yeah.
elephants are dancing, and things like that. So to kind of help them to use the grammar, but it was quite a fun way. So
Yeah. You
then
could do it
they,
with prepositions. You could do that with going to versus present continuous.
yeah,
He's going to
exactly,
swim, or he's swimming. He's going to jump onto the wall, or he's jumping onto. Yeah.
yeah. And
That
so
kind of.
yeah, and then they kind of you can either do it that they recreate the sentences from their own pictures, or they have to pass the pictures. Like if groups have had different sentences, then they pass the pictures and try and recreate
That
sentences.
there's a game like the kind of game you can actually buy. It's a bit like that. Is it called telephone? Is it the telephone thing where you draw, where you have
Oh,
uh
Gartic. I've
what's
seen
it
it like a
called?
mobile phone app
Thing, yeah,
one.
and you but it's got pages, but then you can clean them off. So you
Hmm.
have start with a word, you write a word, you pass it on, the person draws the word, turns it, so and then passes the picture and the person draw. You could do that with grammar as well. I've just
Hmm.
realized as you're talking about this. I've seen it with vocabulary. We have it at I say it's you could do it with a normal bit of paper, but the thing that we have at college is you can wipe it off basically afterwards, and you pass. And so as it goes round, the pictures get more and more obscure,
Yeah.
and then at the end you're comparing with the first thing, and you see how it developed, and everybody has a giggle, and that's very
Yeah.
popular. But it's usually done with vocabulary, but you could do that
Yeah.
with grammar as
Yeah,
well,
absolutely. Definitely.
and just those Pictionary things on the board give somebody a sentence to draw for the class to guess
Hmm.
rather than the picture that they have to, do you know what I mean? Rather than vocabulary, giving them a sentence that they have to draw
Yeah. Yeah.
on the board as a game. Um, taking notes in class, taking picture notes in class, encouraging them when they're taking notes not to worry about spelling and stuff, just literally take their notes and pictures and then reconstruct, as you say, notes from the class. So if you're doing a CLIL type class, take all the notes and then give them, I don't know, 10 minutes at the end of the lesson to work with a partner and try and reconstruct as much as they can to summarize the lesson in words using pictures and memory, basically. What else? There must be more.
They're good. So going back to kind of this idea of the grammar side of it, for for your storytelling in the narrative tenses, they can be kind of useful to for kind of setting the scene so that they kind of draw first what was happening, and then kind of develop the story from there. I'm just thinking there was a great activity Cass Billsborough did TESOL Spain years ago, and it was the shark attack. I can't remember if I've mentioned it before, but so
No, it sounds
you
familiar.
yeah, so you start off and you draw a picture of a beach and you do what you were doing at the beach. And then you kind of go around and you say, "What were you doing at the beach?" And then Fiona says, "I was swimming." So Fiona, you draw
Yeah,
Fiona swimming in the sea. "What were you doing at the beach?" "I was eating an ice cream." So you draw another little person. And then suddenly there's a shark attack, and then you kind of develop the story from there of
right.
what were you doing and then what did you do after that sort of thing.
This sort of reminds me of a thing. This was Scott Thornbury in a workshop many, many, many moons ago, like very long time ago. And it's almost the opposite of drawing grammar. It was the invisible postcard or the invisible holiday photo, and it was like a no materials thing. You start basically with a blank piece of paper, or even just by going, look at my photo and going around and going, oh, what's that? Oh, well, that's me. You can see there's me. And you just, you wing it basically, but you're using the language and there's no
Hmm.
material needed. And that's like a warmer. So this is almost like drawing, but in your imagination.
Yeah.
This is me. This is, oh, what's that thing next to you? Oh, that's my old radio. I always take this radio to the beach. Oh, okay. And I can see you've got a book there. What book? And so it's encouraging questions and improvising answers. And there is no picture, but
Hmm.
but in a sense, you're drawing it in your head or you're imagining the visuals in your head. Um, I remember we did that in this workshop with Scott, and I've used that quite a lot since that activity. But the shark attack, yes. Well, I know Kath quite well. And I was going to say, I know I've heard her talk about it or we've discussed it or something. Yeah, I think drawing's really good because it does allow us to, or allow students to express, should we say, concepts in their own way because the
Hmm.
teacher will explain something in a particular way. And we'll often use yes, no questions or whatever to concept check, but I think drawing is much better. It takes the linguistic pressure off.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, because even with yes, no questions, they've got to verbalize their understanding of a thing
Hmm.
or any questions kind of thing. They've got to then have the nerve to ask a question. They may not have understood, but not be confident to speak in the group.
Yeah.
um, or just not understanding how to spell things, even if I mean, I don't actually use meta language much in class now, but if you're saying present perfect, are they actually understanding that? Just get
Yeah.
them to draw it.
Yeah.
And you can, when you're monitoring, if they've left their little drawing on the table, you can go around and have a quick look, and you can say, "Oh, that's interesting. Can you know?" "Oh, I'd never thought of it like that. Can you explain to me why?"
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's a good, useful way. And then you can get them to produce the pictures 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and tell you
Yeah. Yeah.
what it's all about. And so that's why we leave this grammar thing on the board without Will and going to and stuff. It's just the pictures. It's there in the corner, and then they
Well,
can
yeah,
either ask me
yeah.
or I can ask them.
I think that's it. Whenever we talk about introducing language, whether it's grammar or vocabulary, we always say, write a sentence, write it in a way, in a context that's personal to you. And actually, that drawing that they've done themselves, again, will be much more memorable,
Yeah.
probably, than a sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, and also something like, I mean, I'm just going to use this as an example because I've turned the page because it's here in front of me, says she, and it's not this thing, if I leave that on the board or a A3 piece of paper with it on the board, you can see this circle with a cross and some lines going out. Whereas if I've got words on it, it's much harder to actually, what does that say? What was that?
Yeah. 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 They,
It's an easier thing to refer to and say, can you remember this? Right. Can anybody remember what this bridge was about? And then somebody will, yay, right, back to the class. And it's just like a visual aid that's there.
nice.
Um, I mean, I don't just do it for that, we do it for other things as well. But we have these sort of fairly weird pictures around the room, and then sometimes the students' pictures will be up there as well. Um,
Excellent.
yeah,
Well, there we
drawing
go.
and color.
Drawing, color.
Color, well, before we finish, color is important because your brain remembers color more effectively than black and white. So any image, last time I checked research, this could have changed slightly, but it was about 80% of an image attention was drawn to color.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which is why you use black and white when you want imagination, black and white or low color contrast. Not color contrast, variety of colors, low palette, limited palette, because there's space for the imagination. Whereas if you want memory, you use pictures with color,
Hmm.
and then the color will stay in the memory.
Hmm.
And that's also why I put color around vocabulary rather than numbering vocab items. But that also means that things like Cuisenaire rods or color coding, if you're doing any semantics type stuff, word order, underline or write, use different colors for the words or whatever, because the color will stay more clearly in the memory. So you're really supporting the memorization if you use different color pens. Get those orange board pens. I've actually got a set here. This is my standard kit of board pens. I've got at least
Nice.
6 colors always, and then color coding for the memory, and that will help with grammar as well. Or, your um, example sentences. It's a faff to write each word in a different color, but you can underline each
Hmm.
bit
Hmm.
in a different color
Absolutely.
afterwards. So yeah, drawing grammar.
Well, we'll be back again next week with another topic. Have a good week, Fiona.
And you, see you soon.